Okay, we're going to try to learn how to do better jump arcs to make it look more natural, because like jumps happen in like kind of an arc. And if you look at the left animation, it's kind of jerky and it's sort of moving all over the place. The second one looks smooth and the timing looks a little more realistic. And I actually did some research watching some other animators to understand the concept behind this. And the concept that's it's been used by several. Alan Becker would call it slow in, slow out. I found another animator who used the phrase ease in and ease out. It's the same concept. The concept is that when you move objects, when you start moving an object, you in animation they stay close together, and then as they get faster, you move them farther. Each frame is farther from the previous one, and then when it gets slowing down again, they get closer. That's the basic concept. So if you take a look at my first animation here, I'm going to use the greater than and less than signs. You'll see that one, my arc was sloppy and it wasn't very consistent. Two, you'll see that all the animations are very similar in distance from each other. It's like someone just clicked the space bar and was just dragging the character. And it doesn't look, then that was just a very odd jump. That didn't look very good right there. It just all jumped over. Now, if you watch this one, I'm going to bring this one over and we're going to zoom in on it a little bit. Okay, click. Now, you'll notice the starting is very close together, like just barely moving. And then it gets farther and farther and farther. And it kind of spreads out more, except for this jump. It's like a preparation for the jump. And then the jump, you see the spacing. By the way, to turn the spacing on, you go to Edit, Options, Preferences, and you set onion skins. You can also set it to show ahead so you can see ahead of it. But I like to just go with 3 or 4 onion skins with this basic setting. Okay, back to this. It gets farther and farther. Then it's going to slow down a little at the top of the arc. Now, the hard thing, I think a lot of people have a hard time with visualizing the arc. So I came up with an idea. We're going to go into paint.net. We're going to create an arc. And I'm going to show you this. So basically, I created a separate layer, and I'll show you how I did it. I'm going to make a new layer here, and I'm going to just click on this tool. It's the line tool, and you can choose a style. I chose one with an arrow on it. Oops, I think I can choose which direction the arrow points to. I want to point filled arrow. I guess I can turn it around. So I just basically dragged the line from one side to the other and then created an arc. And I did this on a separate layer in paint.net. So I'll call this arc guide. Okay. And I want to make a smooth looking arc that looks kind of like, yeah. And that's where my orange dot is always going to be right on that line. And then we're going to get rid of it. So we're going to save this. I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to call this Cliff with Arc Guide 2. I'm going to make this is my second one, so I'm going to save it and call it 2. Okay, and I have the original one, and all I have to do is just turn this layer off, by the way. And I can save that, File, Save As, and I can just call this Cliff with No Guide 2. Okay, you can name yours whatever you want. I suggest calling it with guide, without guide. Okay, now I have those two things. Now I'm going to go back to pivot. I'm going to start a new pivot here. Okay, just pop open pivot again. And I'm going to go load my background, file, load background. But I'm going to start with the guide. Now here's the great thing about pivot. We can replace this background. Now I'm going to make my character a little smaller so he fits this screen a little more appropriately. I don't want him to be super big. I want to have him have room to jump, and I can go back later and even make him flip. But I want to make sure that the jump over, now you may not want your character to make it. Maybe you want your character to land short. Then make your arc so that the arc lands where you want your character to land. Okay, I want him to land here. And this is a natural looking arc that will get him there. But I'm going to make sure my orange dot, every time I move it, stays on that line. And that's going to make that, in fact, that's going to be really great if you do a flip. So I'm going to start with a couple frames. I literally always start with like 5 to 10 frames, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, of nothing. So that when I play back, I'm going to set it to 15 frames per second. When I play back, there's just no motion. Then I'm going to have it move just a tiny bit. I'm going to zoom in now so I can see it better. I'm going to move it a tiny bit to get started. You can see the shadows right there. I'm going to move it a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. And now I'm going to have him prep for the jump by going down like this. And then this is not a very fancy make of this animation, but I'm having him straighten out, and then his jump is gonna take place. He's gonna jump to that line right there. Now you see how I have the orange dot is on that black line. And now I'm gonna spin my character by holding Control, CTRL, and ALT. And I'm gonna spin him just a little bit. And I'm gonna move him farther on that line. Then I'm gonna spin him a little bit more. And I'm going to move him. Every single time your character's in the air, you want to move that orange dot. I'm going to move my camera over here. Okay, I'm going to spin him a little bit more and move him up this orange dot. There we go. I'm going to spin him a little bit more. This is going to look great. And I'm also trying to move it a little further each time. His body, so where the orange dot was, I want it to be further away because he's picking up speed. Now, at the top of the arc, you could slow down. If that makes sense to you, go ahead. If it doesn't, just keep making them space out a little further because he's going to be picking up, a lot of times he's going to be picking up speed. Okay, and then I'm going to have him start slowing that down. I'm going to make littler motions now because he's trying to like correct for his landing. And then the next one, I'm going to have him hit the ground because that would be the right amount of space. So I'm going to just have him hit the ground right here and then spacebar. Then I'm going to have his body slide a little bit. I'm going to have his arms go down just to indicate that he hit the ground. And I'm going to spacebar, and then I'm going to have it go a little bit farther because he was going pretty fast. Then it's going to get smaller. Each time it's going to get smaller because he's going to slow down. But I'm going to do a bunch of those. So it looks like he's going to slide to a stop. And let's hit play and see how that looks. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I like it. It's not perfect, but it's much better than the other one where there's no spacing and there's no guide. Now, the problem is we have this guideline. How do we get rid of the guideline? It's pretty easy. I'm going to click on the last frame. I'm going to drag this little handlebar to the very end. Click on the last frame. I'm going to drag to the front. And you have a couple options. You can hold Shift and click, or I'll show you another way you can do it. It doesn't matter if you start at the beginning or the end, but you have to, don't click on anything until, because right now that one's selected. If you click on anything else, it'll be unselected. I can hold right click and say multi-select, and it will select all the frames between the one I last clicked on and this one that I right clicked on. Now I'm going to go to my background and, I'm going to load the background. Sorry, we're going to go File, Load Background Image, and we're going to load the cliff with the, no arc guide, which is this one here. And it's going to say, do you want to replace it? Would you like to delete it from the list of backgrounds? Yes, because we're going to use this background. Set all the selected frames to this background? Yes, we want to set all the frames to this background. And now hit play, and my character is jumping without the guideline. So we use the guide to help us make it look good, to give it a natural arc, but then we remove it by replacing the background. And there you go. I hope you found that helpful. And you can use that for all kinds of things. You have someone throwing a ball, figure out where you want the guy to throw the ball from, and then draw an arc for that. Maybe it's like a lower arc. And that's going to make it look so much smoother. Then you can spin it, and you don't have to think about, oh gosh, where did I just have my dot? This will help you really stay on task and on the line. Okay, I hope that was helpful. And I'm doing things to help myself, by the way, get better at animating. And that was one thing that I hope would help my students. So we're going to try and do that today. Good luck.